Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 6, 2021 at approximately 7:29 p.m. PST. Well, I left off yesterday in the Hobbit Hole and just wanted to mention a couple of things. When I first got to the Hobbit Hole, I built a character with the assistance of some of the gamers around the table. And the character's name was Xavier Zachariah Zelig. Okay, he happened to be a medic. He was combat capable the whole 9 yards. But I didn't really take to him all that well. So after a couple of games of playing him, I built somebody that was a little bit more connected to the way that I was. Okay, as with most gamers, there's usually part of that person in the character that they really take to. In this way, Jeremiah Wolfstrom was created. Now, at this point, I've already got the storyline out, but we were having so much fun around the gaming table as characters in the in the game, as people, and that we're just socializing. Okay. I remember one Halloween we all got into costume. Now we'd been in our late teens, early 20s at this point. We all got into Halloween costumes, and there happened to be now. I remember I was dressed as a road warrior, okay, circa Mad Max. Also reminiscent of it was based on the idea of the aftermath game, post-apocalyptic. One of the people was dressed as a vampire having just fed. Okay, circa there was an old movie by the name of Near Dark. Fabulous movie if you ever get to watch it. It's really entertaining. They never once mentioned the word vampire, but that's what they were. At least I don't recall them ever mentioning vampire. Okay. We also had a wizard there, a couple of other people that were dressed. Okay. And the important part of this little piece of the story is there was an accident outside where we were gaming at the time. So of course, bearing in mind that many of the gamers happen to be capable and happen to be trained in first aid, we went out to see to see if we could help. Well, when the ambulance arrived, the ambulance attendants were trying so hard to help one of the gamers who was not involved in the accident. As a matter of fact, it was a gamer that was dressed as a vampire having just fed. But he eventually had to leave helping because the ambulance attendants were so badly caught off guard. They were so badly distracted from helping the people that really needed the help. These were the types of people and like I said, these were the types of people that we were dealing with. Always there to help, always there to back each other up. Okay, to the point that I remember times when newcomers would show up. There was one issue where a person had been literally. We were in the middle of game, and a newcomer to the party was literally brought in unconscious, like they were passed right out. They were brought in by another person that wasn't part of our group, and all he said was, "We had to get her out of the situation. Can you put her up for a little while?" Okay, so we just took her in. She became one of the fold. Okay, and things evolved. Well, I had so much time, so much fun with that game that I decided that I wanted to put this story to paper. So I started writing The Birth of the Wolfpack. Now, bear in mind, the gaming crew, what we had done in the game was built this whole situation. Okay, we built this whole group, and we call ourselves the Wolfpack. So I was having so much fun with it that I decided I was going to write a story about the birth of the Wolfpack. So I got writing it. Okay, and I started it off in a bar, as you can well imagine if you're a gamer. I started off in the middle of the bar, and just let it go. Well, the story essentially wrote itself. Okay, and I didn't think about it. I never actually knew where it was going until about 3 chapters before the end of the book, when I finally went, I gotta bring this to a break point. And at that point, I went, I know I'm gonna have to write a sequel, and probably a prequel. Okay, but at this point, that's all it was. So I tied the story off. Okay, I got to the end of the story and finished it off. Well, as I was going through the editing, I ended up in the middle of all of this. I had actually my marriage had come apart. Like, I'd gotten married and the marriage had come apart. Right. So after I had left my wife, ended up with a girlfriend just as while I was tying off the birth of the wolf pack. And she got looking at the original story and the birth of the wolf pack. And she made some comments about it and what have you. And the net result of it was that the birth of the wolf pack fit beautifully onto the end of the original storyline I'd written back in grade 10. Because in grade 10, that storyline ended at the fall of man, and hinted at what was coming after it. So I worked it around a little, worked things out, and figured out, okay, I can tie this right in there, and I can take the rest of the story. I'd already written a chunk of it anyway. Okay, of the first part of expanding the story from the original storyline. So I figured, okay, let's finish the birth of the one. Let's take the birth of the wolf pack, get it into print, and get the rest of it written. Net result: the end of an epic is now almost complete, and I'm looking at turning things around. And I'm just about done with the end of an epic. Already gotten started writing the Return to Paradise. Okay, which will be it'll be the final trilogy in a four trilogy series, is how it had to break down. But it took a little bit of time. Okay, and I figured out how to take book 12, Return to Paradise, and guide people back into the original storyline to take it right back to the first story. So that's the order it's going to come out in. Technically, it comes out 10, 11, 12, and then it'll go 1 through 9. Okay. Now, I'm quite happy with the way it's starting to evolve now. And it's been an ongoing issue. And of course, as time went on, okay, while I'm writing all of this, and while I was with the same girlfriend that pointed out that this fit in nicely, I ended up getting onto a radio show called KGRA. Okay, I was with them for a while, and then things came apart at that end. But while I was on that, okay, I'd actually been listening to a show where a gentleman was talking about UFOs. And I made a couple of comments in the chat room, like anybody else listening to the radio shows, like many of you people listening to me either here or on Spaced Out Radio. And this gentleman asked me to call in, and he wanted to talk to me live on the radio. So that's where it started. From there, things got carried away, and the net result was I ended up on Spaced Out Radio talking about aliens, alien abductions, the things I've been through, the things other people were going through. Okay, ended up connecting with other people that have been through military laboratories. Net result of that was I ended up writing the reference manual, Races of the Worlds, in which I include 59 different races I've personally dealt with. Okay, now I probably should have taken longer to put it out, but people were asking more and more questions, and I figured it was easier to get it written out, which I did. Okay, which is why this book is in print. Now, this one, and I mentioned this on the show last night, this is Race of the Worlds. It is strictly information at this point. Okay, but it was not complete even in my eyes. So what I did was decide on this. when I get the second printing of it done, I'm working on the pictures at this point. So, absolutely, if you already have one of these, okay, I've got a record of everyone that I've sent books to. The problem with my record is I didn't actually keep track of everybody that actually bought one of the Races of the Worlds. Okay, I mean I've got the addresses, but if you got one of these, okay, and you desire a one sent to you when the pictures are complete, which will be within the year. I'm hoping to get, it depends on how long it takes to get the pictures done. But I've already decided anybody that I know I've sent one to, I will be turning around and sending another copy of it. I will just simply send them a copy. If you've got a copy and you'd like the copy that's got added information in it, as well as the pictures, as soon as I get it done, and I'm not giving you a time frame on that. I'm hoping by the end of next year. But it really depends. The primary information is already written, but it depends on how long it takes me to get all the pictures done. But I'll be saying, if you want one, make sure that I've got your address. Okay. And I will compare it to my notes. Make sure I've actually sent something to you. Because the reason I put it that way is I know some people will go, well, I got one and I won't have any record. It went anywhere. Okay. But I'm going to try and get out a copy of everyone to everyone that's already bought one. Okay, bought one or that I've gifted one to. Okay, if you've already got a physical copy, absolutely, if you'd like the expanded version at no cost to you, drop me a line. Okay, you've obviously already got my address, so drop me a line, let me know, and I will be more than happy as soon as I've got it finished. I will be sending one out to everybody that I know I've already sent one to, even for those of you that buy the original copy. Okay, because I've still got a bunch of them in print here. If you desire a copy of this book, okay, it's very simple. Drop me a line, and if you are ordering it before I've actually got the pictures completed, you can bet your bottom dollar I'll be sending you an additional one after the fact, once the second printing is done, and I will be sending it to you. Okay. The reason for that is because, in my opinion, you've already asked for it, and it was not complete in my eyes to start with. Okay, but that's my issue. But what I found out, I got a little sidetracked there. And what I discovered was a lot of the races that were in Races of the Worlds, I'd already started writing into the story, into the Yldrbacian Chronicles. Okay, which means I'm now looking at it going, I've got the 12 books I know I'm going to be writing. Okay, plus the Races of the Worlds, the reference manuals that work really well, enhancing the information about the different races and about how they interact. Okay, and then I tied that together with the idea, because the Yldrbacian Chronicles are being what's the word I'm looking for? The artist for the Yldrbacian Chronicles is handling the outside covers and all of the inside work. I have a different artist that is doing the inside work is doing the artwork for the Races of the Worlds. Okay. And with that in mind, with the Races of the Worlds and with the artist doing the Races of the Worlds, what I'm doing now, that came out well, is I talk to him. He's going to do the baselines. I'm going to work with him to get the baselines. And then when the artist working on the Yldrbacian Chronicles has to add a new picture, okay, I'll send him, if it has to do with another race, I will send him the baseline that I've got that will be in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, or will be in the Races of the Worlds. And the gentleman doing the pictures for the Yldrbacian Chronicles will take that as a baseline. So you'll be able to look at the pictures in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, compare them to the races of the world and know you're looking at the same people. Okay, with this in mind, okay, again, we now have 12 of the Yldrbacian Chronicles. There will be a compendium at the end of it. And because throughout the Chronicles, the lead character is he is writing down journal entries. And there will be, after all 12 are out, there will be an actual book marked Jeremiah's Journal. And all it will be the journal entries that go through, that will be put in sequence, that go through the entire series. Hence why it will take that long. There is also going to be the compendium, which of course will be a lot thicker, I think, than I'm planning on. But that's just the way that's going to go. Okay, and obviously I can't do the final additions to the compendium until I get each book in print. Okay, there's a couple of other stories that tie to it. So when I talk about writing 32 books at the same time, understanding right off the top of my head, there's 15 of them that right off the bat are all tied to the same storyline, but it's all being written at once. Okay, I've already started all of the books. The compendium, Jeremiah's journals, Jeremiah's journal, the 12 books themselves. Okay, so all in all, not bad. In my opinion, it's working really nicely. It's very focused. And the reason I'm walking you through this is twofold. One, to bring to bear just exactly how much planning can go into some projects. Okay. Now, we'll get back to where we were. The Hobbit Hole itself was a fundamental place for me. Okay, as I said, my self-esteem was absolutely a shambles. Okay, but one of the gamers, okay, had a friend who was certainly not a gamer. In all fairness, he was a former biker. And for whatever reason, and I still do not know exactly why he did this, okay, but he decided to start taking me away from the gaming and just taking me out for coffee. The side effect of it, because my self-esteem was an absolute shambles, so I wouldn't even talk to the waitresses aside from saying, "Can I have a coffee, please?" Okay, or whatever the order was. But that was where my whole conversation would end with them. Okay. This gentleman, okay, now I wrote another book here because of him that really was triggered by him, which is this one. Okay, which is Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams. Now, this gentleman that was a former biker, okay, understand the social skills I learned around the gaming table were pretty off kilter if you think about it in social circumstances. Okay, around a gaming table, what I was taught was in game time, if you didn't like something, you stole it, you killed somebody, you ripped them off, you played whatever trick you had to get your way for you to get ahead. This is the way the games were set up. Okay. It's very much like some of the video games today. If you desire to get ahead, shoot the person you're trying to get ahead. Kill them in Mortal Kombat, whatever. Okay. So I learned that many times in the gaming system, the law was a problem, and you really were up against it a lot of the time. So I learned very much that in the gaming world, laws were meant to be acknowledged, but that did not mean that you had to follow them. And bearing in mind that a lot of the gamers in certain gaming scenarios, especially if you look at Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of gamers were played thieves. And obviously, if you're a thief in real life, this is a bad thing. In gaming terms, it's just part and parcel of the system. Okay, now understand something about theft in my personal opinion. I grew up in a world where whoever was in the house there were 6 kids, two foster kids. My parents were block parents. So, of course, the rule was this. If you saw anything sitting on the counter, money included, that was not yours, it got left there. Okay, until whoever owned it came and got it. So, and I've lived that way for my entire life. Okay, to me, theft is just plain wrong. Okay, in gaming, it's a different world, and being a thief in a game is not a problem. In real life, it's a massive problem. Even with something about the Hobbit Hole was that many of the people that were in the Hobbit Hole had been doing things that were definitively wrong in the real world. Okay, but in the Hobbit Hole, nobody touched anything that wasn't specifically theirs. Even as in my case, if I left something behind, because I lived at home, I lived at my own home. I didn't live in the Hobbit Hole like many of them did. But if I left something there, I was absolutely certain when I got back it would still be there, even if it was something like a $10 bill. It would still be right there when I got back. Okay. And it may have been moved in the case of the Hobbit Hole, it may have been put in a cookie jar or something like that, and gone, by the way, you left this behind. So understand these people that came from a misfit and from a real mixed mash, mixed up set of people, even we had the same outlook that in the real world, especially in the Hobbit Hole, you never did anything, you didn't go after your own. So we ended up developing this kind of a connection. And what ended up happening was I went on and I started writing. Now, most of the people from that crew they've gone their own ways. I haven't talked to a lot of them in years. But do I still hold the same feeling towards that part of my life? Absolutely. The other thing to keep in mind here is when I was actually gaming with them, because I was working in the hospitality industry, my hair was always very short cut. I was always clean shaven. I was always dressed neatly. That was because I was in a lot at that time. I was working at one of the most successful um, golf clubs in the country at the time, at least from what I gathered. Lord knows the people there sure thought we were. You know, so I'm very different in the way that I dress at this point in time. But my attitude, aside from being a little more outspoken, which reminds me, get back to the restaurant. The gentleman that was teaching me how to socialize, he was from a world himself in the physical world, okay, in the real world, because he was not a decent person in the biking world that he lived in. Okay, he was an enforcer, meaning if he didn't like something that was going on, he beat them up, he stole from them, he set them up to take the fall. Right. He had his run-ins with police and what have you. I don't honestly know whether he had any serious run-ins with them. Okay. But this is the gentleman that I learned how to communicate with other people with. Understanding all the way through school, much as I was counseling people, I never carried a conversation and nobody ever got close to me. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. There were very few that did. Okay. And them I remember quite well. Okay. But this gentleman that spent the early part of his life in a biker gang, okay, being not the nicest individual in the world, came and pulled me out of gaming. Long now, do understand I never quit gaming. Okay, I've been gaming an average of twice a week for the last, well, I started at 13, so it'll be 45 years now. Okay, but this one gentleman, okay, he is the one that is responsible for this book coming to print, which is Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams. In it, I cover the basics on how to get your life turned around. And that's a lot of what I talk about here. Okay, so from there, now what's happened is I'm now in the process of evolving. And I just gotta take a look at something here. As you can tell, my eyes still do not work as well as I'd like. I just didn't want to lean right up on the camera so I could see it. But that's how I got to where the Yldrbacian Chronicles were started. Okay, now where we go from here is how the books are evolving, what they're up to. Okay, where I'm going with that and why. Now, I mentioned way back on pretty much every video, I returned to this world for one primary purpose. Okay, this lifetime I returned to remind people to remind everybody in existence that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay. Now, I am going to, in order to accomplish this, yes, I do desire to reach everybody by video, if they've got a video. Other than that, I am encouraging you to take this message out in your own way and help the people you come in contact with personally to understand that, again, working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I do try and keep these to a minimum, to the half-hour mark. With that in mind, okay, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel because this is going to carry on, as near as I can tell, for the foreseeable future. Okay, do subscribe to the channel and remember to hit that alert button just to the right of the subscribe button to let you know when the next videos come out. Okay, and I will be back again tomorrow. Okay, and we will talk more then. Until that time, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.